It's April 6th, JLD here, and welcome to MSTR today. In this show, we're going to first off say happy birthday, Satoshi. Back in 2008, you brought Bitcoin to life, and here we are in 2025. Thank you. We're also going to talk about some 1 year performance metrics, the Magnificent Seven versus MSTR over the past 1 year. We'll talk about Bitcoin versus Fiat. We'll get into some details about the pros and the cons. We'll also talk about MSTR's liquidation scenario. What does that look like? How would that be possible? We'll talk about that. And then we have Fong Lee, the CEO of Strategy. He does a great speech at MIT, where both he and Michael Saylor graduated from. It's a fantastic talk. We're going to get a nice little clip of that. This video is not financial advice, but please do comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you're feeling like in today's world. Just comment for support. Again, just your comment for support means the world. And let's dive on in. All right, our first post is from Michael Saylor today, and he says, "Happy birthday, Satoshi." Back in 2008, it was posted by this anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto. And what a whirlwind of events has happened since 2008. Here we are in 2025. Where will we be in 2030, in 2035, in 2050? I mean, it is crazy to see what has happened over these years. So happy birthday, Satoshi. Incredible stuff. Let's move on over to Chris, who shares the 1 year performance of Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon, QQQ, SPY, Google, Meta, Apple, BTC, Tesla. I mean, a lot of negatives up here, some good positives down here, especially for Bitcoin and Tesla. And Apple did all right. But MSTR, 78% 1 year performance. Think long term, that's the goal. And if you think long term, I believe that Michael Saylor and Strategy are leading the way with Bitcoin as the engine. So keep that in mind. Chris wants us to know that commodity money was bad at transferring value across both space and time. Metallic money was bad at transferring value across space, but good at transferring value across time. You know, gold has pretty much done a good job at transferring value across time. Fiat money was good at transferring value across space, sending money, but bad at transferring value across time. It's all fiat money trends to zero. But Bitcoin is good at transferring value across both space and time. It is the clear winner. It is the only winner. So comparing monies across space and time, listen, Bitcoin is the only one in the upper right-hand corner here. Let's go. All right. Next post from British Hodl. Imagine having sold 40 billion of equities on Thursday, then having to see Bitcoin's resilience on Friday, and now having the weekend to wonder how to reallocate in the next few weeks and deciding not to buy Bitcoin. It's not going to happen. A tectonic shift in perception of Bitcoin on Friday for TradFi. British Hodl believes it. I can't see personally how that's not the case as well. A lot of conversations around what the heck is happening here. So time will tell. And Strategy has a great post about everybody asking when Strategy will get liquidated. Again, this is everybody meaning everybody who doesn't know anything about Strategy. But here's the truth. There is no liquidation point. Why? Because they built their Bitcoin treasury on non-recourse debts, not loans with LTV traps. At a 1.5x leverage and 0.42% interest and zero panic selling, you've got a bulletproof balance sheet. Here's how. Bitcoin treasury strategy by Strategy. 1, non-recourse debt. No margin calls, no forced liquidations. Bitcoin can drop 90%, Strategy still holds. Disciplined leverage. 1.5x exposure to BTC, but without reckless risk. Their cost of capital, just 0.42%. Trust is everything. Selling BTC, breaking the social contract, that's game over. Strategy hasn't flinched. And in my opinion, they never will. This is Michael Saylor we're talking about. Next, no hidden doomsday price. Unlike what most people think, there's no liquidation line for Strategy. Their structure is built to survive. Optionality is the play. This isn't a quarter-to-quarter trade. It's a long-term accumulation model. The balance sheet is the strategy. So the real risk, a fundamental failure of Bitcoin, negligible. Breaking trust by Bitcoin. Will Saylor ever do that? I personally believe absolutely not. So those are the real risks. A fundamental failure of Bitcoin. If that happens, yes. I mean, Strategy will liquidate. I mean, it is over if Bitcoin fails. A lot of people like Strategy Archive here and myself believe that this is negligible. And then a breaking of trust by selling Bitcoin. Will Saylor ever do that? Like, of course not is my answer. I truly believe that, because that is also game over. It's game over. So TLDR, Bitcoin treasury strategies aren't reckless. They're strategic. Bitcoin thrives. Strategy thrives. And if you're still looking for their liquidation price, you've already missed the point. There is no liquidation price. The Bitcoin therapist posted this. A lot of people are waking up to a post by Dividend Hero that at this time had over 52,000 views. He said, 100% honest here. I have hated on Bitcoin in the past, but seeing it not tank while the stock market does is very interesting to me. This is just one of countless people who are having this same thought process. It is inevitable. And now I have this epic video clip of Fong Lee, the CEO of Strategy. He speaks at MIT just a couple days ago. It was a great talk about Bitcoin for corporations. Again, this is just another example of how strong the Strategy team is. It's not just Michael Saylor. You're about to hear the CEO of Strategy. This is Fong Lee, and his belief is right there, as much, as high, as convicted as Michael Saylor. So Fong Lee, as soon as we get back from thanking our sponsors, take it away. So check it out. I know we're all looking to stack more Bitcoin and MSTR, and to do that, we need more fiat. So let's chat about our sponsor, ShipStation. We all know the market can seem pretty chaotic at times, but if you're in charge of order fulfillment for your business, you already understand chaos. While we might not be able to help calm the chaos in the market, ShipStation is here to help when it comes to shipping and fulfillment. I've used ShipStation to easily automate shipping to customers around the globe. My favorite part about the platform, managing orders in one simple dashboard makes an otherwise massive task feel pretty darn simple. Plus, ShipStation not only integrates with the services and selling channels you already use, it's also the fastest, most affordable way to ship products to your customers. ShipStation hooks you up with discounts up to 88% off UPS, DHL Express, and USPS rates, and up to 90% off FedEx rates. Calm the chaos of order fulfillment with the shipping software that delivers. Switch to ShipStation today. Go to shipstation.com/MSTR to sign up for your free trial, or click the pinned comment below this video. That's shipstation.com/MSTR. And thank you for supporting our sponsors that allow myself and my team to continue to produce these daily videos for you for free. Now back to the show.
So we're going to talk about Bitcoin for corporations. I know you just heard a conversation around why corporations shouldn't have Bitcoin, all these kinds of things. But I'm going to tell you why I think it's quite important for Bitcoin and for companies to have Bitcoin. And I think I might be uniquely qualified to share with you my views on this. First of all, corporations. Some of you are sitting here. How many folks in here are students? Raise your hand. All right, like 20, 30%. How many work for a corporation or run a corporation? Okay, it's probably the other 80%. I have a few statistics up here just for you. There are, and this is just US, the numbers in the world are hard to find. There's about 35 million corporations in the US. And we as corporations employ about half of all the workforce in the US. We have about 28 trillion in revenue, which is roughly the GDP. That's how the GDP of the US is created, is through corporations, and about 4 trillion in cash. Right? And then you talk about, okay, what about a publicly traded company like Strategy? What do we have? Right? There's about 5,000 publicly traded companies in the US, employing about 40 million people, 16% of the workforce overall, 22 trillion. So you can see quite a bit of the overall GDP comes from public companies. And then let's narrow it down a little further, the S&P 500, right? 500 of generally speaking, the largest companies in the US, of which Strategy is not included on it, even though we're about 120th largest company in the US. About 29 million people. Again, a very large portion of the workforce is employed by the S&P 500, 12% of the people, 18 trillion of the revenues. So more than half of the revenues, right, half of the GDP of the country comes from the S&P 500. So for those who are like, hey, corporations aren't important when it comes to Bitcoin, corporations are absolutely important when it comes to Bitcoin, right? The country is run by companies. The country is employed by companies. Corporations are fundamental to the success of Bitcoin. But there's something fundamentally wrong with companies in the US, right? 35 million companies, 5,000 publicly traded. None of them really perform. If you think the bar, right, you can all go out there and invest in the S&P 500. If you think of the bar of performance is the S&P 500, and that's what most people said is, okay, is your investment working or is your investment not working? People think of the S&P 500 as 11%. The Russell 1000, the next 1,000 largest companies in the US, don't perform as well as the first 500. The Russell 2000, the next 2,000 biggest, perform half as well as the S&P 500. And the rest of the companies that employ everybody else basically runs with GDP, 2.5% growth. So anyone's like, oh, you know, companies are doing well, companies are doing great. Well, you hear, well, the Magnificent Seven is doing well. The S&P 500 sets the bar. Almost every other company is not performing. So what did I learn while I was at MIT? Right? What did I learn? I went there for business school with the idea of learning, and they teach how do companies do better? How do corporations do better? We can figure this out. I'll save you $200,000, and I'll tell you what they taught us. All right? I'll save you 2.5 Bitcoin. Right? What did we learn? Option one, you can start or you can run a company. In about 2 years, this is what I learned how to start or run a company. Hire smart people, build a great product, acquire customers, retain customers, increase market share, expand margins, maximize earnings per share, reinvest in business, reduce your costs, pay dividends, buy back stock, and then when you're done and you've given up, acquire somebody to grow some more. And then start from the beginning. By the way, that's extremely hard to do, which is why 99% of the companies in America underperform the Magnificent Seven and the S&P 500. This is hard. 2 years of business school, most people don't figure this out. Okay, well, that's hard. Everyone's like, well, you know, how do I create a great product? How do I become the next Amazon or the next NVIDIA or the next Google? And after a year and a half of all this, you're like, this is really hard. Let's try something easier. Let's just manage money. Let's just manage somebody's funds instead. I can work for private equity. I can work for venture capital, maybe a hedge fund, maybe endowment, maybe a pension fund. That's easier, right? And then after you realize that they only hire 10 people a year, you're like, oh, that's really hard too. I can't get a job doing one of those things. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do what 40% of the people who go to business school do. I make money off of the people in columns A and B. And I become a consultant, which I did for 10 years. I become a banker. You can go work for one of these large banks. That's admirable. And you're just basically selling to these guys. But they teach you all the same principles. This is my MIT transcript. It's a little risky to put it up here. You don't have to put your glasses on. I got like a 3.7 or something like that, mostly A's, some B's. But that's not the point. What did I learn in those classes? 90% of those classes that I took in finance were all about how do you do column A or column B or column C. They taught us all the exact same thing. How do you make more money by selling product? Admirable. That's the American way. And so what ended up happening at the end, when you graduate with a great degree from a great school, you underperform. You can go work in private equity, and they actually found a way to outperform the S&P 500 for the last 10 years, 14%. That's pretty good. Venture capital, you hear about these guys out in Silicon Valley. They're brilliant. They work really hard. You pay them 2% of your 2% of your assets and 20% of the gains for them to perform as if all you did was just put your money in the S&P 500. If you went and worked for a bank, your performance was 9%. People are like, oh, 9% is pretty good. Not when compared to 11% as the S&P 500. You could go work for a services company, right? You can go work for McKinsey or Accenture or Deloitte or BCG or Bain, you'll do 9%. You go work for a hedge fund. These are the quant PhD guys. They're real smart. You 9% there too, right? Or you can work at an endowment, right? Harvard has a big endowment. Penn has a big endowment. MIT has a big endowment. And they're doing 7%. Brilliant folks investing. Pension funds, where you put all your retirement money, 6%. So after all of that education, all that smarts, you get the smartest people in the country, and all they can do is the S&P 500. So what's the problem? The problem, from my point of view, and the problem from a lot of Bitcoiners' point of view, is focusing on the income statement, group ideology. We've taught every single person the same thing at every single school across the United States of America, good schools, average schools, below average schools, and inertia. If you're going to be taught the same thing, why don't you just do the same thing as everybody else? And of course, the solution to all of this, the solution for corporations, isn't to do the same thing as everybody else. The solution isn't inertia and not do anything new. It's focus on your balance sheet, show a little bit of bravery, and invest in Bitcoin.
And there you have it, another episode of MSTR Today. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. I know these times are tough, which is why it's even more important to surround yourself with the right people, because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I'm honored to be one of those 5 during these 15 minutes of your day. And let's just stay the line, because in my belief, Bitcoin, MSTR, it's inevitable. I truly believe that. You know that. That's my word. It's inevitable. And if you listen to Michael Saylor, you know that he believes there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.